Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be taking a look at a few interesting things you may have noticed with LGA pads on some certain newer CPUs. Now, the place you likely would have seen this, and the reason I'm kind of making this, is Sapphire Rapids. Now, if you've seen some of the recent coverage of Sapphire Rapids, you may have noticed this odd hexagonal pattern. And you also have these nice little striations down on this side and a few up here. Now the question is, what exactly are these and why are they here? Well, if we take a really close look at them, we can see that there's very slight size differences in these pads. Now, the shape of them is roughly the same, but the sizes are just a little bit off. And that size difference causes you to see these patterns at these longer distances. You notice it's a little bit hard to see up this close, but once you bring it all the way back here, they become pretty apparent. Now, the question is, why would you have different size pads? Well, the main thing you have to remember is on a CPU package like this, you've got your data lines, and you've also got your power. Now, you want to keep them separated, and also power is going to require more high impedance, high current throughput. So, granted, on these, I don't believe there is a difference in the size of the actual LGA springs, the springs that come up and attach to these pads here, but you have to remember that there's a little bit of a tolerance where, this can scoot around a little bit in the socket, and with a data pin, if it gets kind of on the edge, that's probably fine. But for a power pin, well, if your power pin is now down to half of its normal contact patch, you're going to end up with a lot more current flowing through because of it's a smaller area. Now, this is not the first CPU that's done this. This is not the first time that Intel has had varying size pads. Granted, it's not something that is super common. So, like if we take one of these, normal desktop chips. Let's see, what is this? This is a third gen i5. You'll see that all the pads are very uniform size. Nothing special to write home about. But if we look at something older and also in the kind of the server segment, we've got Itanium here. Now, Itanium is interesting. You see all this, kind of gold stuff around the edges, and you might think, oh, that's just some kind of weird pattern. That is actually the power input, and if we flip it over, we see they have the same thing on the back. Now, as far as I can tell, I don't personally have any motherboards that these fit into, but my understanding is that all of your data comes in on all these central pads, and all of your power comes in on these larger surrounding pads. And the way that works is there are these little carriers, or at least with the copies that I've gotten, you have these carrier cards. So you'll see it kind of slots in and it attaches to this. Now, that one is assembled with it all clipped in. This is what it looks like by itself, and you'll notice you've got all those LGA pads going around the corners, and that connects to this here, which if you are familiar with motherboards, you'll notice a lot of power filtering components, and you'll see on the back here, we've got this nice big power input. So this is actually your step down. You get 12 volts into this big old beefy board here. Steps it down to your 1.3, 1.5, whatever Itanium prefers to run at. And then it passes it down into these power input pads up here on the top, which as far as I'm aware are mirrored to these ones on the bottom. And then you get your data all in the center. So that's more or less what's going on with these here. Now, the other, I've got a few other examples. This here is a IBM Power 9. Same kind of thing, where it is, you can see the pattern in it. It's all on the one side. There's nothing Nothing special on the other side, aside from the fact that it's very hard to focus on apparently. So nothing special on the other side. Doesn't have that weird kind of like in between power connector thing that the Itanium has. But if we look very closely at it, you can see same kind of thing. Smaller pins in the same kind of grid array. Now the other thing that you'll notice is Intel has that kind of iconic, kind of like a tilted, what do you call it? It's a parallelogram of some kind. It's that pitched pitched rectangle, whereas this on this IBM CPU, you'll see that it's all circles, and that's not anything too surprising. I don't think there's any particular reason that they go for the different sizes or the different shapes. You will notice that there is perhaps a little bit better coverage. More of the total surface area of something like this is covered with this kind of rectangular pads. Although you'll notice this actually no longer uses that same kind of rectangle thing. They're a little bit more of like elongated hexagons, but you'll also see along the edges here, we actually have circular pads. So there's an interesting mix on that Sapphire Rapids chip, and I'll be kind of sanding through the layers of that, figuring out exactly what's going on with that. We've also got this Sun Ultra Spark here, and interestingly enough, this one actually has square pads. So again, I'm not entirely sure. It may be that they have, the different companies have copyrights on their own different pad shapes. Here we've got an Opteron with kind of rounded rectangular pads, or actually I guess rounded squares, but yeah, also fun thing. The kind of glue design multiple chips, not new for AMD. The Opterons in the mid-2000s had the same thing. And I just wanted to show one other example here. I don't have at hand another CPU that is not sanded down, but this here is, let me just get the model name for you here. This is a E7540. So this is, I'm not sure if I can get the light to show that right for you, but this is a kind of late 2000s big server chip. This is what they use in their 4 and 8P systems. Now, if we look in close at this, you see that the pads are all the same size, and what you'll see is, let me see, particularly on this corner here. So you can just about see, because I haven't fully eliminated the, there you go, haven't fully eliminated the existence of those old pads, but you'll see towards your right that there are a little bit, the pads used to be there, but underneath, it's all actually just one flat surface. So that is where you get your big power input planes on. But you notice these lines of data pins. So they actually kind of intersperse them between, where you've got these big power planes that feed, ground and power input into the CPU. And then you've got your data pins, which are separate. And you'll also see here, so this middle section used to be covered with just a whole bunch of capacitors, much like you would see on any other given CPU. Same kind of thing. You have power filtering in the middle with all these extra filtering capacitors. What you'll see is they alternate between power and ground on those. And on this one in particular, there's a little bit of a checkerboard pattern that you can see, where one side is ground, one side is power in, and those all connect into your big flat ground and power planes. But yeah, no, that's just wanted to take a look at a few CPUs and have a short little discussion on LGA pads, why you see some patterns in some, and what the patterns are there for. And as I said earlier, this Sapphire Rapids chip, this is a engineering sample. As you can tell from the Intel Confidential, that's how they mark their engineering samples. No model number, no nothing. Supposedly, this was a 44-core chip, so this should be one of those tile designs. And what I'll be doing is I'll be doing the same thing that I did on this E7450 or 7540, whatever. Yeah, 7540. Anyway, but I'll be doing the same thing where I just slowly sand off layer after layer, and we'll be taking a look through the construction of some of these bigger chips. That's all.